Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. We are here today with Mr. David and Tony Moruski.
Hello, hello.
This is David Paul. No relation to Logan Paul.
That's actually I hid my identity because I didn't want my patients to find me. So it's David Rosenbeck. David Paul's his middle name.
Okay. I was like, dude, I didn't even think about that being his last name.
Yeah.
I remember, but I put it down wrong on the sheet. He is a family nurse practitioner, and you're working at Parkview right now, right?
I was working at Parkview.
And you got a new opportunity?
Yeah, I took a couple different switches. So I switched as of about 3 months ago away from Parkview. I was working in the Cancer Institute for like 2.5 years over there with the GI. So like pancreatic cancer, esophageal cancer, hepatocellular carcinoma, the really nasty stuff. And I wanted to switch over to the ER because I know that you can have like more traveling opportunities with that. And so switched over to the ER. Didn't really enjoy it all that much, and I was trying to figure out how I could travel, in other ways. Found a new gig to where I can work remotely, and I've been doing that for the last 3 weeks now, and it's been fabulous.
That's awesome.
We first came to know David through our Real Estate Investors Association, but then also more recently, David sold us a fourplex that I didn't want. Dakota really wanted it.
He thought we were joking the whole time.
It was easy for me to negotiate because I was just like, dude, I really don't want this thing. Like Dakota's the one that wants
Dakota
it.
and I were the only two that wanted it.
Yeah. I feel like David thought we were messing with him too. I'm like, dude, I'm not kidding when I say the numbers don't make sense. I'm straight up not lying. I'm like, the numbers legitimately do not make sense. I was like, well, I'll show you 5 different ways they don't make sense.
I told my wife, I was like, I'm pretty sure either they're messing with me or they're the best negotiators ever, because Dakota's saying absolutely not, and Dakota's saying heck yes, let's do it.
Yeah, you're like, are we playing good cop, bad?
Exactly
yeah,
right.
Are we playing good cop, bad cop right now? I'm like, no, I'm being 100% real, dude.
So then we saw David accidentally. We ran into him when we were in Minneapolis, Minnesota for VeeCon, Gary V. We had the NFT. I think you just got gifted a ticket, right?
I thought I was going to, but then I ended up buying one for way overpriced.
Did you sell it yet?
No. Should
Okay.
I?
Well, I think you get the Snoop Dogg NFT drop if you don't sell it.
I haven't been paying.
Wait.
Ever since that, I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth. I just forgot all about it.
Well, I sold mine almost immediately after for like $600.
Well, I spent like $5,000 on mine, so that hurt
dang.
really bad. Hurt really bad. Yeah. Yeah.
So you went to college.
Yep.
You became a nurse practitioner.
Yep.
What advice would you give to young people? Are you glad that you're in that position now? Are you glad that you're able to like make the kind of money that you can make? Do you think that people should go to college or?
So I absolutely think people should go to college if they know what they want to go into. But my wife and I, we've talked about this. Like, I'm not going to push my kids in the slightest to go to college because I think it's insane how much it costs for one. And even like me, getting a high paying job after I graduated is still, I racked up like $70,000, somewhere in that neighborhood of student loans. But I was fortunate enough to have a good paying job. Whenever I first started working at Parkview, it was my first NP job. I was making about $120,000 a year. And then, which, was good for what, debt that I had on it. But shortly after I got into it, I was like, I'm still just like, I saw so many miserable doctors then. Like, as a nurse, you don't really communicate with the docs all that much. But then once you're a nurse practitioner, you're kind of, rubbing shoulders, you're working directly with them. And I just saw so many of them that were just miserable. They just like didn't want to be doing what they were doing, but they were stuck in it because they did 17 years of schooling. I did 7. And so then I started thinking about like other ways that I could potentially make my way out of it. And now I've slowly got now into this remote job that I think is something that I'll be able to hold on to a little bit longer.
There are some doctors and some surgeons that like genuinely enjoy their jobs.
Absolutely.
But then there are some who don't. And so I kind of had some notes about like the mental and emotional stress of dealing with people who are dying, who are at the end of their lives, who have complications, who are on medications that might help their craziness, like exaggerate that craziness a little bit.
Yeah.
So why do you think that those doctors were unhappy And then what is it like mentally and emotionally to be in that hospital environment continually?
I bet at least every doctor that was in my group that I worked with, the interventional GI group in the Cancer Institute, all of them except for one, they were from an Indian family. And so, I mean, that's just like a huge pressure. You have to be a lawyer, be a doctor, something like that. And I think that, they get kind of pushed into these roles. And I saw a quote one time from a online about a doc, and it said, "Yeah, I love being a doctor. The only the only downside is I have to deal with patients." So it is a super stressful job. And that was kind of one of the reasons that I got into real estate as well, was because I worked in a really nasty area, the Cancer Institute, and working with some of the nastiest cancers there are, like pancreatic cancer, esophageal cancer, like top 2 for deaths and stuff like that. And I was wondering, because I saw so many people that would make it to 50, 55, 60, something like that, like they're on the cusp of retirement, and then they get diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and you're going to be dead within 2 years. There's just no doubt, it's going to happen. And so many people, and a lot of those guys were my dad's age. My dad's getting close to retirement. And so I'm just thinking about how devastating is that? I know my dad, he worked his ass off his entire life, and he's, getting close to retirement. I just can't imagine how devastating that would be for somebody like that. And so I was thinking, I always knew that I was not going to be a good employee. I just always wanted to figure out some way. I'm one of the most productive lazy people there are. I'll work so hard to find a lazy way to do something. And so I went through all the schooling and everything like that, did what I was supposed to do, but I knew that I wasn't going to do this for the next 40 years. And so that's why I started really getting into real estate once COVID hit. Because COVID hit, I was only a nurse practitioner for 6 months. And I was making about a $120 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood.
As a practitioner?
As a nurse practitioner,
okay.
Yeah. And I didn't really see any change in my bank account. I was like, why? What's happening? And so then we got stuck at home for 2 or 3 months, and I didn't really have that many patients. I was seeing some patients via telehealth, but I just didn't build up that much of a patient load in 6 months. So I was only seeing 3 or 4 patients a day. And so I remember vividly sitting on the couch one day, and I was I YouTubed what to do with my money in my 20s, and found Graham Stephan at first, and then quickly found out that he was into real estate. So then watched a bunch of his stuff, and then got into Bigger Pockets then after that, and then really dug into everything after that. And we were living back home about an hour and 20 minutes away. And so I had plenty of time to just devour podcasts, driving 2.5 hours a day. I was listening on 1.5 speed and just cranking through. Yep. So a lot of knowledge really quick.
Some people don't realize too, in the medical profession, a lot of times your pay, or the hospitals pay, what the money that they're able to acquire is contingent upon the reviews that you get from the patients who are going through some traumatic stuff. And so they're supposed to rate your level of care. Yeah. It's well, if they give you a low rating and the hospital gets less money, how's the hospital supposed to pick itself back up and become successful if they're only getting 2 out of every $5? Yeah. They're just supposed to train everybody a certain way and that sort of thing.
A lot of hospitals, they're kind of trying to move towards that, based on your, they'll base your salary based on how patients are rating you and stuff like that, just trying to get people to provide better. But Parkview wasn't like that. My pay wasn't based on that. And I don't know if any doctors fully are yet. I think there's some docs that a portion of their pay is based on that, but I think that's kind of the way healthcare is starting to move a little bit. But yeah, you're telling people they have a miserable diagnosis. So yeah, they're not exactly thrilled to come back and see you and stuff. So then it was a very good reality check for me all the time whenever I went into work, that just you gotta go for stuff right now, because we had multiple people. Actually, my next door neighbor, he's only 30 years old, was talking with him one night. We were drinking wild turkey, and he was telling me that he's had really bad reflux for ever. And I was like, you should probably get a scope done. And so he got a scope done with our group, and they found esophageal cancer at 30 years old, and they were able to remove it, and he's doing well now. But it's just man, yeah, stuff can happen really, really quickly. And that was at least a really good perspective for me in the healthcare field.
Wow. It was from drinking wild turkey.
I don't think that was the cause, but
it probably didn't help.
Yeah, probably didn't help.
So you got into real estate during the pandemic. You
Yes.
just went back to your woman and you were like, listen, we need to buy houses because that's the best thing to do now that like
Yeah.
everybody's scared.
Yeah. So yeah, Logan, my wife, she's incredibly supportive. So we were already thinking about moving to Fort Wayne just because of my proximity to Fort Wayne. Hour and 20-minute drive was getting miserable. And so then once we started looking in Fort Wayne, we did like 3 or 4 months worth of solid looking, and I wanted to try and house hack something if possible. And we found our place in the '07. Well, actually, Logan found it, and it'd been on the market for like 30 or 40 days, somewhere in that neighborhood. And it had a carriage house out back, and then a main house. It was 2-bed, 1-bath, and then a 1-bed, 1-bath, 600 square foot carriage house. Carriage house was like already redone, really nice, ready to go. Main house needed some renovation to it. And so we put an full price offer in on it, and then we ended up getting that property and lived in the carriage house for like 7 or 8 months during a miserable rehab of 1,000 square foot house, and had a contractor. The first guy is a nice little old man, like in his 70s, wearing a Marine Corps hat, and he's like, oh yeah, we should be able to get this done, whatever. And ended up took like $17,000 for him to tear out a wall and do some plumbing, and that was it. And fired him, and because he convinced me that paying by the hour would be better than paying by the job. And so I've obviously learned a good lesson there. And yeah, so we got into that property eventually 7-8 months later, and now we're doing medium-term rentals for both of them now that we moved into a new place.
That's awesome. Just for new people, talk about what house hacking is.
So house hacking, you try and find a property that can make you some money instead of you just throwing money at it. So we did, in my opinion, like a luxury house hack, because we built a fence around the property, so we didn't even see anybody coming or going from the carriage house behind us. And we bought it for $150. Mortgage was like $870, somewhere in that neighborhood. Only put 5% down on it because it was a residential loan, and I know that some lenders, they'll make you pay more if it's like a duplex or something like that. So and once we got it up and running, our first tenant that we had inside there, he was a worker for AEP here in town. And him and his wife, they were paying us over $2,000 a month to stay in the carriage house. Mortgage was $870 something. Utilities for the carriage house were like $150 a month or something. So we were cash flowing crazy right out of the gate with that.
And that was for like a short-term rental?
We were doing, I think they stayed for 4 months, somewhere in that neighborhood. We've only done 30-day minimum stays. We've never done anything shorter than that.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just for any viewers out there, you can do that with a duplex. You can do it with long-term. You can do it with triplex. You can do it up to 4, I believe. And yeah, it's a great way to like not have a mortgage payment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like we could obviously pay the mortgage payment and stuff like that. Like I was making good money, whatever. But I knew that just buying something for 5% down, 2 for the price of 1, essentially. And now that we've moved into our new place, we moved in like 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, something like that. Now both of them are medium-term rentals, both of them renting for over $2,000 a month, and we're cash flowing like almost $3,000 a month on just that property alone, which is madness.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you found your first deal because you were trying to house hack, and it was on the market. Did you always find your deals on the market? Did you look into doing some direct to seller? Did you like buy from other wholesalers? Like how do you find your deals now? Because you sold us a 4-plex.
Yeah.
How many deals have you done too? Like how many deals have you done, or like how would you? Because is that the only one you wholesaled, right?
Yeah, that's my one and only wholesale. Yeah, it was traumatic enough. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah. So I always say that we like accidentally flipped our house back home, which we lived in Jay County. My wife and I, that's where we were born and raised. And we bought a house. We put a bunch of sweat equity into it. We made like $25,000 off of it. And then as soon as we were ready to move to Fort Wayne and buy like the place with the carriage house, there was a college house that was up for sale. And I really liked it, found it on the MLS. They were wanting $91,000 for it. And I was talking with another guy. He was an infectious disease doc at Parkview Randalia. And he said that the college rentals over by Indiana Tech are really good. And it was a 5-bed, 2.5-bath house, $91,000. And so that's my only long-term rental that I have right now. accidentally flipped a house back home, made like $20,000 off of it, and I took that $20,000, put it directly into everything with the Indiana Tech house. We didn't even touch any of that money, didn't see it, never hit our bank account, which is probably a good thing. And then came out of pocket to buy the place, to buy the carriage house and the main house. And then wholesaled one property. We've got one arbitrage that we're doing at an apartment up north next to Parkview. We've got.
Well, you got to describe that. What an arbitrage.
Oh, so an arbitrage.
Is.
Yeah. So there's an apartment building that I reached out to, told them, hey, I'm a nurse practitioner at Parkview. There's a huge need for travel nurses at Parkview. Like we were having hundreds that were coming in. At one of our Parkview physician group meetings, whenever I was still employed there, they were saying that we were spending, I think it was like $13.5 million a month on travel nurses. So there was just tons of them. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that the need was there, and I had a couple of my other properties. And so I reached out to this, the apartment complex up north, and asked them if I could lease a unit under my LLC. And they said, yeah, sure, we do some corporate leasing, but we only allow a certain amount. And she said that they would give us one. So we have a 1-bed, 1-bath apartment. Rent for it, including everything, is like $1,023 a month, plus utilities on top of that. But I'm renting it for $1,950 a month right now. So I'm making like a $700 spread somewhere in that neighborhood with it.
Yeah, and just to be clear, you don't own it.
Don't own it,
just rent it.
Just rent it, but make sure you do it the right way to where the people know exactly what you're doing, because a landlord will be very upset if you try and furnish a place and then rent it out from under them to, short-term rental, medium-term rental, whatever.
Have you been thinking about investing in real estate?
It's not like what you see on HGTV.
We created a course to show you how to really invest and create a profitable flipping and wholesaling business.
We give you marketing strategies like how to pull lists, who we target, and where we find the money.
We go over sales, which includes live calls and negotiations, scripts, role-playing, and so much more.
Everything that you need to know to flip houses is in this course. And if there's anything that we missed, we will create a video to answer your specific question.
This knowledge has made us over $1 million, and we're selling it today for just $997. Click the link below.
And so, yeah, don't own it. I just rent it. We've had 3 different maintenance requests. The washer went out, wasn't working right. We had a leaky sink and something else. Reached out to maintenance every time, and they came out, like apartment maintenance. They came out, fixed it, took care of everything. We were totally hands-off with the whole thing. So it's been pretty nice, but the big thing about arbitrage is that you don't build any equity, which is the big driver of wealth in real estate. And so it's just been a nice little cash flow accelerator for us, and it's not something that I would want to try and scale to some, huge degree or anything like that, but it's just, nice to get a little bit extra cash coming in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Does your wife think that like you're super smart? She's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool that you figured this out.
No, she knows the real me. She doesn't think I'm smart. No, but she's been absolutely fantastic. For all of our medium-term rentals that we do, she's furnished every one of them for us. She ran the rehab on one of the properties that we manage for another investor here in town. And so managed the rehab, did all of the furnishings, took care of everything for it, and then she does the heavy lifting on a lot of the management stuff, and then just ask me questions as needed for it. But yeah, it's been nice just having somebody to help lighten the load, because if I was going to Target and doing all the crap she was doing, I would not have done as many as what we've done.
Does she work full-time too, or is that what she does?
So she was working full-time at a factory, and then eventually it got to the point where it's like, why? You don't need to. It would be more beneficial for me and you if you were just home taking care of stuff and putting out fires and, answering Airbnb requests and stuff like that. And so, she's been just managing our rentals full-time now, and then managing a rental for another investor here in town. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where are you guys planning to move to?
So now that we've got this new remote job, plan on in 2 weeks from tomorrow, we'll be moving to Denver for a little over a month, staying at an Airbnb 2.5 miles from downtown Denver, $1,800 a month. So I'm renting off the people like I do to other people, and so we'll stay in Denver for a little over a month, and we're going to be on the Oregon coast in Depot Bay for a little over a month, and then we're not really sure where we're going to go after Oregon. We're a little bit up in the air. We're not renting anything else because my wife, she actually had quite a big, exciting opportunity. I'm sure you guys follow Brandon Turner on Instagram and everything else. He posted that job listing of the house assistant, and so I talked to my wife as soon as I saw it, screenshot it, sent it to her, and she was like, I could do that. And I'm like, okay. And so I screenshot it, circled it, and I DM'd Brandon Turner. And I said, hey, man, my wife's super interested because I'm part of his Behind the Beard text club. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. Yeah, if you go to his website, you can be part of his tech club. He just sends out something every Wednesday. And so he sent it out there first. So I circled it, sent it to him, and he answered me back on 4th of July. I was at a 4th of July party, and I was, messaging back and forth with Brandon Turner, and I was about crapping my pants.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
So if that would work out, then we may be moving to Maui for 6-12 months, something like that. And Logan could work with Brandon Turner and be the house assistant working for Heather, his wife. And then I just get a secondarily know Brandon Turner by osmosis.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so that'll be very interesting to see how that all turns out. So that's why we haven't planned anything past Oregon, because my wife just got a email from HR at Open Door Capital saying they're reviewing applications right now, and they said that we should have an answer sometime in the near future. So
Dang.
it'd be interesting.
That'd be so crazy. You might see our friend out there too. We have a guy that's out there, Alex Camacho, and he's good friends with Brandon. So,
Okay.
dude, if you get out there, you have to let us
Absolutely.
know.
Absolutely.
Is that the island he's on too?
Yeah, he's on Maui.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you going to continue to invest here in Fort Wayne? Are you thinking of like?
Yeah. So my plan, I've got a few docs that really want to invest with me, and what I think would be the best bang for my buck with them would be us finding a short-term rental together, like a higher-end short-term rental somewhere elsewhere other than Fort Wayne. And then we manage it. They're just the silent money partner, and we're partnering on the short-term rental side of things. But then I think the cash flow from all of that, I myself would start to build more of like a base layer of just like long-term rentals in Fort Wayne. That's what I think I would like to do, because now I've got a little bit more volatility and potential risk with my entire portfolio essentially being long-term rent or medium-term rentals other than the college house. And so I'd like to build a little bit more of just a safe base of long-term rentals once things move forward a little bit more.
Well, you were real certain about Airbnbs when we were negotiating.
Oh, sure, yeah. Absolutely, I was.
He's like, no, there's no way. There's no volatility there. Like, dude, this thing's going to cash flow so much money. You're never going to lose money.
It's all part of the dance, right?
You're like, bro, this is the greatest deal ever. I just don't want it.
Yeah.
I want you
Just
to
don't have the time for it.
Yeah, I want you to have this deal.
Man. Yeah, that was a learning process for me, though. I shot myself in the foot. I got a deal from another guy in town, and I would have made $11,000 more on the wholesale, but I was very glad to give it to you guys instead.
Yeah, I'm glad it all worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice Airbnb.
It'll be cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
You just showed me pictures a little bit ago. It looks awesome.
I
Good paint job.
hope it works out.
Absolutely.
I think it will. I have confidence in it.
I have full faith in it.
Yeah.
Tony's the only one that doesn't.
Yeah, Tony's the only one that is like, he just did the math on it. The math doesn't make sense. The only way it makes sense is for Airbnbs. And if you listen to all the investors right now, you know what they say? Don't buy something unless it makes sense for long-term rentals.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's just do it.
Yeah, and I think everybody who's like in our masterminds and stuff like that is like, dude, your houses are so cheap that like I would buy everything in your market.
Yeah. But like what I think too, like even with my medium-term rentals that I have, like every one of them would cash flow as a long-term rental. But even if I needed to cut my price by $500, $700 a month, which would be huge, I'd still be making $300-$400 more than what I would as a long-term rental, and still making pretty good money with it. So I feel like as long as you're buying somewhat smart, then you're gonna still be doing pretty good with that.
Yeah, I will say that the neighbor, I can't remember his name, but the neighbor that owns a bunch of properties in town, he did call and say, I'm interested. He wanted to buy it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, you should have seen how many people, like, there's a couple people that hit us up to purchase it afterwards.
Really?
But that's how people usually are whenever you're going to wholesale properties. It has to be a very good deal, like obvious, very obvious. That one.
Yeah, and they didn't even know the condition either.
Yeah.
Like they were calling just to be like, hey, I really wanted to buy that. And it's like,
but you
It's
didn't.
been up for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been up for a long time.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah. And then, I made the mistake of posting it. I'm part of another Facebook group called My First Million in Multifamily. And so I posted it in there as well. And then got a message from Drew Wired. He was saying, hey, there's a guy that I know from like South Carolina that just said that there's somebody trying to daisy chain your deal. And daisy chaining means like, I'm trying to wholesale this property. They say they'll give me X amount, which is, a few grand over, and then they try to sell it for a few grand over. And so then I was obviously furious. And then I never once thought it was you guys, just for the record.
You did it?
No, I didn't. But I was just like, I'm not going to answer anybody for a little bit until I figure out what's going on. And then found out that it was a guy in that My First Million in Multifamily, and I lit him up a little bit, and then blocked him on Facebook.
Yeah, dude, talk about how the seller was freaking out too, because that's the thing is like, so if you guys are wholesaling properties, and then you go and send this out and you're not sending it out to trustworthy people, you're sending it out to everybody, then people will do that. They'll just go and they send it out, then it somehow comes back around, hey, isn't this your property? Or they post it on Facebook or something, and then they see it and then they're upset. So like, if you don't set proper expectations with them or know how to handle it, dude, the whole deal could blow up. So talk about what he said.
Yeah, that was my first ever wholesale. Did a lot of things that I screwed up on. And I mean, originally I did want to purchase the property myself. Right. And then eventually it got to the point where I was like, no, because I mean, I first reached out to him 6 months before I even contacted you guys. And at that time, really wanted to buy the property. And he told me like 230 or something like that. It was just like way over. And so I said, no thanks, whatever. And then he reached back out to me, said he wanted to sell. And then that was whenever Logan and I were planning on traveling and stuff like that. And I was like, I just don't have time for it. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll try wholesale. And so I said, yeah, still interested in buying. And then we negotiated, came to a price. And then I started, talking to some of the people in the Fort Wayne real estate group. And then, somehow got back to him. I'm not 100% sure how it did, but he was upset that he said, I thought you were buying the property and then somebody else is buying it. And I was like, well, I mean, like I am technically partnering with them somebody's going to come, I bring them the deal, they take the deal down, and that's just, how we do this process. And he was pretty upset about it. I thought he was almost going to bail out on me, but, we already had a signed purchase agreement and stuff like that. And then I said, listen, you were more than happy to take the, because I figured up what his purchase price was. I mean, I saw it on the tax records, and then on a 15-year note and a 30-year note, depending on what he had on it, I said, you're either going to make somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $150,000 on this property. Like, do you still want to go forward with the deal or not? And he didn't really answer me back, but he never did not go through with the deal. So he was upset, and that was my fault. I should have been maybe a little bit more straightforward with him on exactly how I was going to go forward with the process. But
I mean, it doesn't always have to. And like, I mean, I think you still described it well. As long as you have a reason of why you're like, hey man, we're still planning on moving forward with it. Nothing's changing. Exactly. Like, that's what I was trying to explain to him, is nothing's changing on your end. Yep. You're still getting the same amount of money. We're still going to close in the same time frame, and nothing is going to change on your end, because that's our agreement. Yeah. So I think that's always good to remind them of. But like, if you could go back and do it all again, and like, talking to like newbies or new people who are trying to get into real estate investing, wholesaling, flipping, what would you have done differently?
Yeah. So I think if this would have just been like my initial mindset would have been, I'm going to wholesale this property, like, because I was thinking I was going to buy it. I mean, I talked to him then that I was going to buy it, so he had that expectation that he was going to buy it. So if I was strictly going at it from a wholesaling perspective, I would have talked to him more about like, hey, this is what I do. I find properties. I partner up with a select few group of people that are cash buyers that like to buy properties, and they either hold on to them, they flip them, or they do something along those lines. But my job is to make this process super easy for you, and we get a cash offer for you that, you can just walk away, no problems, no questions asked. But since that was a little bit of a unique situation, since I was going to buy it, that was the expectation up front. And then I decided to wholesale later on because, my situation changed. Then that just, his expectations were I was going to buy it. And then he was saying, why is somebody else even involved in this process at all? So yeah, if I was wholesaling it from the beginning, I would, just be upfront. And you don't have to say, hey, I'm going to wholesale this property. Just say, hey, I've got some partners that I work with regularly that they are going to bring the money to the table. I'm going to bring the deal to the table. They're going to take it down, and you're going to get paid no matter what. And like nobody's going to, scoff at that. Yeah.
Yep.
Are you letting deals fall through the cracks because you don't have good systems in place?
We've been there before, and we've tried several different CRMs, and RE Simply has been the best.
Ari Simply tracks your KPIs, does automatic follow-ups for you, and even records your incoming phone calls.
The system is simple to use and has more features than we even know what to do with.
If you're looking for a great CRM, try Ari Simply today. We put the link in the description. Check it out now.
How did you happen upon that one? Like, how did you find out about it?
We lived in the 07 and I drove by it for 5 months until I finally just called the guy while I was at work one day, because I was like, I told my wife, I was like, I want that thing bad, and I wanted it for months and months and months, and then finally I called him, and it ended up that I was talking to his wife, and his wife, they live down in, I think, Oklahoma or something like that is where they're at, and but she used to be a midwife at Parkview, so we already had that connection, we were talking, whatever, had great rapport with him, and then but they wanted too much at that time. That was the 6 months prior. And so yeah, I was just driving for dollars, made a cold call, and then eventually I didn't even follow up with it. I think I maybe like 3 or 4 months into that, after that initial contact, I think I shot him a text, just said, hey, if you're still interested in selling, let me know. And I don't even know if I got a message back from him, but just goes to show, like, just put feelers out and eventually something will come back.
I think that we messaged him, maybe like, or I messaged him, or he gave us a call off of a letter that we sent him or something like that. And at the time, Dakota and I were extremely conservative, more conservative than we are now.
Yeah.
And I think we were paying like $30K a unit or something like that.
Oh, shit.
And then he told me it had some issues. So I was like, okay, so 120 minus the work it needs. I'll give you 80,000 for it. And he was like so offended. And I was just like, mark him off the list. So we just kind of like took him out of our possible people.
His initial ask for me was $235. And I'm like, you're crazy, man. Like, there's no way that's going to be possible. So, yeah. I think he needed to come down to reality for a few months, I think.
How did you negotiate that then? So did you just like, hey, man, unfortunately those numbers don't work for me? Or like, what did you specifically say to negotiate?
Really not too much. I think whenever he came back to me, I think he came back with 175 maybe or something like that. And then I went and walked the property. His daughter lived on the property, so I walked it with her and saw some obvious issues that were going on. And so I said, this is what I can do. I was trying to get him at 150. And then he came back. We just kind of did a little bit of back and forth. But like, really, I'm too nice of a guy. I'm just not a good negotiator, man. I'm just not. Like, you guys probably well know. But I don't know. Just
you negotiated hard with us.
That's because I needed to make money on it. I was going to be under if you guys are giving me your original deal.
Yeah. Well, we always like to make sure that people are still making money, but
sure,
like obviously our goal is to like buy them for as little as possible, and we try to buy them where the numbers make sense. So that's usually like our way of explaining it to other people. It's like, hey, here's where her numbers are, and here's what makes sense. And like we were giving you very legitimate numbers,
for sure,
but we do that same thing with sellers. It's like, hey, look, like I know that you guys don't give a crap about us, but we need to at least show you like where we're coming from, so you know that we're not just like pulling this number out of nowhere and just trying to like rip you guys off. We are literally trying to be conservative here. So I just wasn't sure if you use that same tactic on him or.
I mean, I was telling him that it's probably going to need $100,000 worth of rehab is what I was estimating on, and I'm just I've only done at that time my terrible rehab on my own house, which I got ripped off by the old Marine Corps man, and then.
Nothing against the Marine Corps or anything.
Definitely nothing against the Marine Corps. just that grumpy old man. Yeah. And I found him on Angie's list of all places. He was number 1 on Angie's list. I'm sure, this has got to be okay. And whatever. But
he's friends with Angie.
Yeah. I forget where we were going with that.
Wait, so you're talking about the rehab, about $100,000.
Oh yeah. I was telling him it's probably going to need like $100,000 worth of rehab to get it up to where I wanted it to be. Because I know that the area is going to appreciate with GE being nearby. I wanted it to be, like an A property, so that you're going to get some of the best in the coming future. And so I knew I didn't want to like do it halfway and then have to redo things in the future. And so I was being high end on my rehab estimates. But
no, I think you're spot on. So far we have put 50 plus the washer dryer plus the paint. And then we haven't even finished the other 2 units either. And then we still have to fix the roof leak. Yeah. So we're probably 65 in, and we probably got another 25 to 30 left
and that
to
roof
go.
is an interesting roof too. It's a concrete roof versus a traditional rubber roof where it's like, oh, just tear it off, put a new one on, or like, I don't know how to fix that exactly, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, somebody will figure it out.
So no, you're pretty spot on your numbers.
That's good.
Yeah. I actually wish you were wrong. I was hoping to get it done a little bit less. I was like, come on, let's get it done like a little bit cheaper. But like after we get all the numbers back, like just like you said, we want to make it nice and we want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, let's just spend the money, like make it like pretty good. Yeah, dude, you have to come by and see it.
The thing I fell in love with that property was whenever I went in the basement, and it was just like 18-inch thick concrete walls in the basement, super dry, and I'm like, this thing's gonna live. It's gonna outlive me. Like, you know, this thing's gonna last forever. So that was what really drew me to it. That's the reason I wanted it so bad, because I knew it would last forever as long as you treated it well.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. I was like, dang, we don't have very many multi-units either. So I was like, I really like it. I like that it's by GE. Yep. Solid building. I mean, now it's gonna look freaking beautiful. Yeah. So I'm like super excited for it.
Yeah, I timed it. I think it was like a 7-minute walk from the front of it to GE. So I mean, yeah, it'll be great in the future.
Yeah. I don't know why if you guys pass on that deal.
Yeah. Idiots.
We're with you. We just took the risk anyway.
Exactly. Didn't make sense for anybody.
Yeah. It doesn't. I literally said that. I was like, bro, if nobody's buying it, that means it doesn't make sense. Like, you're selling me on how good of a deal this is, but I'm like, if it's that good of a deal, if you present it to a bunch of people and it's like an amazing deal, somebody will jump like this. And so that's actually one last point on, then we got to go on to something else. We've been talking about this deal for a while. But one last point I want to make is, like, whenever you have somebody that's willing to pay you more money and you're profitable, you should take that like right away.
Absolutely.
And then like it's very important to know if you're making money. And like we actually heard Rick Ross talk about that at 10X Growth Con one time. And Andrew, I was explaining to him, Andrew's like, yeah, man, like if it's like you're trying to make another couple $1,000s, like don't do it. And Andrew thought that meant whenever you're buying. I'm like, no, just so you know, that's not when we're buying. I'm like, you don't go over what you're estimating on when you're buying it. That's when you're selling. If somebody offers you something and you're profitable and you're making around what you think, you just need to take that offer and take it right away, because otherwise like it can cost you money, or that person comes back and like we've learned that before. It's like it's important to know when you can maximize and when you can't. But like, dude, whenever we're profitable, I'm like, just take it and let's go.
Yeah.
Unless it's on the MLS, and then you can fiddle frick around a little bit.
A little bit. But still, like, imagine if you said no to somebody and then they come back and you're like, dang, because like we've done it before and we have lost money that way. I remember one in Bluffton. We bought it for $3,500. We listed it for $20-something thousand. The guy offered $15,000 cash. And I said, nah, we can't do it. When I went back to him like a week later, he said, I'll do 10. I'm like, you kidding me? It's been a week, bro.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, no, I don't even want it. We'll do 10. We couldn't get anybody else to even buy it. So I'm like, you know what? We're profitable. I'm not going to do this twice. So I was like, let's just do it.
So that first guy that I reached out to, the very first person who offered me the better deal, and then I was like,
you can talk numbers. Tell how much were you making if you would have sold him that?
So I would have made $17,000 if I would have just went with him right out of the gate. And then I first ever wholesale, pretty new in real estate. I'm still new in real estate. I got just a little greedy because I was in love with the place. You know, I'd been dreaming about it for months, and I'm like, I bet I could get a little bit more. So then I started, shopping around. But he's a smart business guy. He was like, I'll give you this right now, but if you advertise it to anybody else, the deal's gone. And so I was willing to risk it because I thought I would be able to get more, and then started sweating because I couldn't find anybody else. And so then, I had to start beating down doors, and then finally LTD came in and saved my rear.
Is his initials JF?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, that sounds like something he would say.
No, but he then...
Don't advertise to anyone else.
I went back to him towards the end, and before we had come to any agreement, and he said that he was like, now he came down to 160, and I think what did we? I mean, I don't even remember. Was it 163? I think
it was something like that.
Something like that. So he would have been. Yeah. He would have been below even what everybody else was agreeing to. So just goes to show like that's like a hunting analogy that I always hear. I like to hunt, and everybody says don't pass up on a buck on the first day that you'd be happy to have on the last day. And so true with this. If I would have crapped my pants if I would have got a $17,000 check, but I got, a little bit distracted by thinking I could maybe get a little bit more. But on the last day, I would have been thrilled to have it. So I should have taken that.
Yep. But that's it. I mean, it's a great learning opportunity because if you're making a lot of money, just freaking take it, move on to the
Yep.
next one. And then you would have probably been more, motivated
Yeah.
to stay into wholesaling
Probably
properties if you had
would've,
made
yeah.
17,000. You'd be like, all right,
This is great. I'm doing
Yeah,
this.
for the amount of time that you had invested
you're
in
like,
it too.
dude, let's do
Had a
that
couple
again.
phone calls, and that was about it. Yeah.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about, are you stacking cash now? Or are you like planning to, because you want to buy real estate here in the near future?
Yeah.
So what kind of real estate are you looking to buy? Are you going to try and house hack again? Like,
So wife and I, we got past our 12 months at our old primary residence with the carriage house. And so every 12 months, you can buy a new primary residence with a primary residence loan, 5% down. Excuse me. And so I knew that I was going to buy something else. And I knew that I wanted it to be something that would be good for a rental. Like, we're not looking for our forever house yet. And found some townhomes up in Huntertown, and I was working at Parkview still at the time, and talked to the builder of the company, walked through them. They weren't quite built yet, and it seemed like it was a really nice place, be an awesome rental in the future. And so went with that. And then I was talking with a friend of mine and trying to see if he wanted to buy the other half of the townhome, because it's basically a duplex, but you buy one portion of the townhome, and so you get half of it. And so I was talking with my buddy Alex, who is at the VeeCon, and I told him he should buy the other half. And he was working with Teachers Credit Union, and Teachers Credit Union told him that, hey, this would actually apply for a USDA loan if you wanted to. But she said she doesn't like messing with USDA loans, but somehow she kept it on their books or submitted it through Freddie or something like that, to where I got that house for 0% down, and I had to put 3% down just to hold the property with the builder. And so I got paid like $4,000 at the closing table to get a $230,000 3-bed, 2.5 bath, brand new townhome. And 12 months from 3 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, somewhere in that neighborhood, plan on just buying something else like that. It's an amazing way to build, properties every 12 months. Put a low down payment on a primary residence that would be a good rental in the future. And we actually, now that we're going to be traveling around some, we put it up on AirBNB. It's fully furnished, everything else. Got a travel nurse, her spouse, a kid, and then I think another travel nurse or something. She didn't really explain it. But they're renting it for almost $2,800 a month. Wow. And we'll be cash flowing somewhere in the neighborhood of like $800-900 a month off of the brand new build that should, fingers crossed, hopefully have no issues whatsoever. So, but that didn't really answer your question. It kind of did, but buying new stuff, sitting on cash. I mean, I'm just trying to build cash. All of my real estate has been done in the last 18 months of everything that I've done. And we've furnished every single place that we've done. My wife and I, we figured it up today. We've put together 10 bed frames together and bought 10 beds and just all this. We've been hemorrhaging cash for quite a while. And so it's going to be nice to just build some cash back up. We don't really have any plans other than if a partner wants to come in, like a money partner, to buy an Airbnb, then we would be looking into that. But that's really the only thing I got on the horizon for the next 6-12 months.
and are you going to get on the HOA there? Are you going to start the HOA and be like, Airbnbs are definitely allowed forever?
100% allowed, yeah. Well, it's a tiny little place, Drayton's Reserve. There's only less than 20 houses out there, altogether, counting townhomes. And it's in one cul-de-sac that's surrounded by another addition, so there's no possibility that they're going to add on to it or anything. And so I don't think an HOA would be any issue. And even if they are, I only do medium-term rentals, so the chances of them saying, oh, you can't rent to people, it has to be a 90-day rental or something like that, is going to be very low.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy too, because a lot of people don't think about, whenever they hear your story, they're like, dude, this guy's a doctor. He's got all this stuff. You're just freaking got money freaking everywhere, And same thing with us. People are like, man, where do you get all this money from? It's you find it, you figure it out. We don't have money. We don't have it in our bank account or anything like that. It is literally everywhere.
Dispersed.
You're furnishing the properties. So for us, I don't know what our average is, honestly. Jacinda probably knows more than us. But what would you say the average Airbnb for you guys cost, and how did you find all this stuff, and how did you furnish it? Did you go to garage sales? Did you buy it all new, or? So
my wife did all of that essentially, but we got better and more streamlined as we went. Our very first one that we did, it was a 1-bed, 1-bath that probably was about 8,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. But our most recent one, whenever we did the arbitrage of the apartment up there, is 1 bed, 1 bath, and we got that down below $5,000. Wow. And it's well done. Everything's brand new. Nothing from secondhand stores. Nothing from thrift, like Target, Costco, and Amazon. We wanted to do it specifically like that, to where anything breaks, anything goes out, anything like, they ruin the towels or something like that, we just ship the towels to our cleaner and she'll be able to bring the new ones in there, and it's the exact same things that we've had. So we have a whole Amazon cart that's just labeled AirBNB, and it's got everything that we normally use inside there. Wow. And so we can just go in there, and then if we come upon another property that we want to do it with, or somebody wants us to manage another one or something like that, we just go in there, buy the whole cart, get it all shipped to the house. We don't have to go shopping, and it makes life so much easier.
Dude, that's a great tip. I'm gonna ask Jacinda if she does that now, because I don't know if she has a specific one like that, but that's a great idea. Yeah, that way it's just streamlined. If you're gonna plan on doing more, then bam,
just make a list. Yeah.
I think you can do the wish list too with like Amazon too. Yep. So
exactly.
There ought to be ways to build those lists out.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, and Target's actually got a lot of furniture too that you can buy. Like my wife, she's bought multiple couches from Target, chairs, all kinds of stuff, and then the Zenith mattresses are fantastic, like $400, $500. My wife and I, we bought a king size bed for our place, like $600, and it is the most comfortable mattress I've ever slept on. Gets shipped to your door in a box. You buy a frame for $120 off Amazon that looks really nice. It's a nice like wrought iron frame that you put together, and yeah,
I think those are the ones that Jacinda buys.
You can basically furnish an entire house between Target and Amazon. Like you don't need anything else. Yep. And you can ship everything too. You don't even need to go to Target. You can buy things off Amazon and have it, or Target, and have it shipped to you. It's crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'll say, because I feel like a lot of people, though, they hear the numbers and they're like, man, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be so easy. It's like, well, you have to get the money from somewhere, or put it on a credit card, or take a tiny bit of risk. You know, it's not just like, okay, I'm gonna go get a rental and then I'm gonna throw some lawn chairs in there. So just want to at least give people the whole context of the situation. It's not like you're putting one, you rent one, and then you go and put somebody in there, and then now you're making the difference. You do have to put a little bit of sweat equity and some cash.
Yeah, because I have the Mint app where it tracks finances and stuff like that,
It's all messed up.
And so, oh my God, yeah. But in 2021, between my salary, because the 120 was my base salary, and then I could make more on top of that based on how many hours I worked. And then my wife, she was still working full time at the factory, making $22 or $23 an hour, something like that. And we burned through $172,000 in 2021, and that was just building between down payments and lease payments, mortgage payments, all this other stuff, but then furnishing everything. I mean, we went through a ton of money, and just everybody thinks oh, David's an NP, he's making really good money, blah blah blah. It's dude, my bank account's empty. Yeah, it's spent. yeah, because even we got a Chase Sapphire card because it's good for travel points. That's what my wife and I love to do, is travel. And so we've got over $1,000 worth of airline dollars that we can use, and so we plan on if we need to go out for an interview in Maui, we're gonna just use our Chase Sapphire points and get free tickets out there. Yeah,
love it.
Yeah.
How is your relationship with your wife? You guys have been married for a while now. You're a minute now.
So we met. I was a sophomore, junior in high school. She was a junior, senior in high school, and met.
She's older?
Yep, she's got a cougar. Yeah, yeah, she's a year older than me. Been together that entire time. We got married as soon as I graduated from nursing school in 2016, and it just helps immensely whenever you've got somebody that's on board. I mean, I've always had big things that I was trying to do and stuff like that, and she's known that ever since I was younger. I mean, I was telling her senior year in high school that I was going to go to Thailand for 2 months and just kind of screw around and whatever, just go do something. And so she's always been used to my big ideas. She's always been extremely supportive, so that's a huge thing. 'Cause I can't imagine, I've never had to where you hear on podcasts all the time, we're how do you convince your spouse to get on board with real estate investing? And it's I've been fortunate enough, I haven't had to deal with that. She's been on board with it, and so that's been really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So why real estate? What's your why?
I couldn't find anything else that made more sense. I mean, it's especially after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, that's the gateway drug for everybody. And after I listened to a bunch of podcasts, after I listened to Graham Stephan, then listened to Bigger Pockets, heard everybody talking about Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I read that, and then after I read it, I was like, yep, I'm completely sold. I mean, like stocks are crap right now. Crypto, I've been investing in crypto, but my Robinhood account looks like garbage. You know, it's down to nothing. And like, I just knew real estate was super tangible. I knew that Fort Wayne was a fantastic market for it because it's growing, and it was just something that I knew that I could make work, and I knew I could figure out. Like it's relatively simple. It's not hard, but it is hard work. That's what Rob Abasolo, he always says that on his YouTube channel. Like, it's not hard, but it is hard work. And so I knew that I'd be able to, you know, put in the hard work to figure it out. Yeah.
You're mentioning a lot of different podcasts and books and that sort of thing. What are some ones that you'd recommend to people who are just getting
really
started?
the only real estate podcast that I listen to, other than the LTD group, is Bigger Pockets. That's really the only one I listen to. But I was following Rob Abasolo, who's the new Bigger Pockets co-host. I was following his YouTube channel like 2 years ago whenever he only had like 5,000 subscribers or something like that. So been big fan of his the whole time.
So if he had come out with an NFT, you would have it.
Potentially. I almost bought a Tyke. I still am on the fence with it.
Only
with
one?
Ryan Pineda. Probably just one.
Man.
I'm still hurt from the NFT conference. I just
Yeah.
You can still sell it.
Yeah, I'm going to hold on to the thing until it maybe makes me a little bit of my initial investment back. Yeah. But yeah, real estate was just, it made so much sense to me. Like, it was just something that was easy for my brain to grasp, I guess.
Good deal. So what would you say is your biggest struggle right now?
So yeah, I would say cash and finding good deals. And I say cash with some reluctance because I have docs that want to invest with me, but I just don't know the best way to deploy it and the best way to go about it, the best way to partner. I mean, that would be total foreign waters for me, you know, partnering on a deal and trying to figure all of that out and making sure that it worked. And if I was going to partner, it'd be on like a big short-term rental deal. And so the way that I'm trying to get past that is Rob, he actually has a mastermind group, 12-month mastermind called Host Camp. And it's for Airbnb people. And like, he goes through step-by-step of partnerships. That's how he started, was partnering with some money partners. That's how he really got things rolling for him. And so been thinking about buying that. It's been a reminder that's popped up on my phone every day for like the last month. And I just can't get myself to pull the trigger because I did an interview with them, like the interview before you like get into the mastermind and stuff. And at that time it was only $2,500. And I still have the email that I can go through the link to buy it for $2,500. But now it's $5,000, like $5,500. Now that he's the co-host for Bigger Pockets, I'm sure the demand's gone up quite significantly. And so I'm hoping that I could still buy it for $2,500, but I just haven't got myself to pull the trigger on it. And I don't know why. I know. I don't know why I'm waiting on it. I don't know why.
Bro,
Well, we spent $12,000 to be part of Ryan Pineda's mastermind. The first when he was smaller than he is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now the price to join is like $24,000 a year. So
and I can tell you that what we've made by implementing like just the changes is like ridiculous.
Well, and just like communicating with other people that are doing what you're wanting to do. Because I like
going to go to another level.
Yeah, because I think like trying to think about the future, like what would I want my portfolio to look like? What would I want things to look like for me? My wife and I both enjoy Airbnb. I think it would be cool to have like, it would be something I would enjoy having a portfolio of like cool short-term rentals that are all over the country. You know, that would be something I would enjoy. And so that's definitely the route that I need to go. And I was thinking about it before we left. I was like, by the end of this podcast, they're going to convince me to buy Host Camp.
Join that freaking thing, dude.
Yeah,
just for everybody listening, always do the course, always do the coaching, always do the seminar, always do the mastermind. You can decide if it was worth it afterwards, but for the most part, it's going to speed up time because it's going to take you from where you are to where you want to be faster with new resources. I think Silas Norris said, don't blame your resources, blame your resourcefulness. But like, getting into a mastermind with people, they already have all the resources that you need.
Exactly.
It's like getting the mushroom in Mario, you know, like you just you're instantly more powerful because of the people you have around you. Yeah.
And like all the questions that I have about like doing a big short-term rental deal with a money partner would all be able to be answered in there with because he has his own private Facebook group. It's
all right, get your phone out, get your credit card.
I will buy it after this podcast.
I definitely would. And I always tell people to do it like no matter what it is, like there's gonna be some value. There's gonna be something that you get. Like there will be benefits, and if nothing else, you're literally getting put in the room with other people who are doing it. Yeah. And like, dude, I just got off the phone with the Boakley brothers who flip $1 million freaking mansions out in Vegas because of the group of Ryan Pineda. Yeah. And now he's helping me to like structure like a pay scale for the project manager that we're trying to bring on. So like you get connected with these people that like only do things like that because they're willing to grow.
Yeah, and they help you with things you didn't even know you needed help with.
Exactly. Yeah. You didn't even know because like we were going this way, and then after joining Ryan Pineda's course, we started going this way. Now we were going towards the rental route, and then now we're going more towards the flip and active business, but then getting the right people in place, which is making us significantly more money, having better relationships with, because we get to connect with these people, and we get to like give them opportunities that they didn't have. So like that's super rewarding for sure. too. So it's like getting in that program like changed our lives in a positive way. And I think that no matter what you join, you're going to get around other people and do for $2,500.
I know. I don't know why I'm like hurting so bad to do it. It's like $2,500. One month of cash flow from the carriage house is basically
or even
paying
$5,000
for it.
would still be okay.
Hey, here, let's make a freaking deal right now. Let's say the price is $5,000. Do it anyway.
Yes. We'll post on LTD's Facebook group after this showing that I bought it. I promise I'll do it.
Perfect, dude. I'll say even if it goes up, it's still it's gonna be worth it.
And I told my wife this like how many times. It's like there is like a 0% chance that this is not gonna make me 10 times what I pay for it. But I don't know, for some reason I've just been sitting on it, and I don't know why.
Dude, and I mean, realistically, we need to figure out why so we can help other people, because that's what a lot of people struggle with. I feel like is the indecision, and like not deciding to go do something. You don't even know why. It's like it's not really that much money. Like, I know it's going to make me more money, but why do I not do it? And like the fear, I don't know.
Well, and like in my brain, I'm like, well, we're not ready to like pull the trigger on buying anything yet with the doc. So, I mean, I could probably push it off a little ways, because then, it's only a 12-month course. So then I'll have more time, like, being useful. But I'm like, you're telling me that I wouldn't need like, 4 months of prep time with these guys, learning from them, like I've already, argued with myself a million times about it. So yeah, I'm ready to buy it.
That's awesome. Good.
So, this is usually our last question. If you've watched other episodes of the podcast, you'll know this question. But 60 years from now, he's like, I don't watch it all the way to the end. I just watch the first 10 minutes.
You wanted me to prove that I watched. I was
the billboard, correct?
Yeah. All right. I'm just joking.
All right. 60 years from now, you get a billboard or a message to the world, a final message. It's your legacy. It's your thoughts, a sentence, a mantra, a paragraph. What knowledge do you think that the world needs? What would you like your legacy to be?
So the wife and I were thinking about this one today, actually, and I didn't really come up with a good answer, other than just like, don't sit there and just like let everything pass by. Like, be more intentional of how you want your life to go by. Because like me, I knew there's a 0% chance, especially after I worked with all these cancer patients, and like they're, like they work their life away, and then they can't even retire. They can't even enjoy their life, because they were thinking they would enjoy their life afterwards. Like, I want to enjoy my life right now. And so I knew that I needed to do something that would let me get to the life that I wanted to get to. And my life that I want to get to is to where I can do what I want, when I want, where I want, with who I want, however I want. And I don't want to have to, whenever my wife and I, we decided we want to have kids, I want to be able to like be home, put my kids on the school bus, be there whenever my kids get home. Like my dad, whenever I was younger, he worked at a factory for, 8-10 hours a day. Then afterwards, he'd go lay carpet after he got off of work for 2-3 hours. He'd get home 8-9 o'clock at night, get to see him for like an hour or so, 2 hours, whatever. And he just worked his ass off. And he did everything he could to give us an amazing life, and he did. I mean, we never wanted for anything, but he worked his ass off for it, and I commend him for it. And that's one of my other big whys of why I want to do all of this, is because because he's getting a couple years away from retirement, 2.5 years, something like that. And if the stock market and 401k and everything keeps going the way it is, like his 401k is going to look like crap. And so I want to be able to help him get to where he's, getting some cash flow in retirement and being able to retire and enjoy his life the way that I want him to. And that's one of my big whys that I want to be able to provide for them.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, how can our listeners get a hold of you?
Just started on Instagram recently. I took forever to finally get on. I don't know why. I just only did Facebook. And my wife, she finally convinced me. So just David Rosenbeck on Instagram, yeah. And so that's where I listened to the Bigger Pockets episode where it was Brandon Turner talking about like creating his machine and saying like you need to tell people what you're doing. And so I think what I'm going to try and do is in the next 5 months or so, something like that, just try and post stories of the last 18 months because we've had all kinds of stupid stuff that's happened and rookie mistakes and whatever, and like just basically try and document our journey. If nothing else, it'd be cool to look back on because we bought the Intention Journal, my wife and I, whenever it first came out. And like one of our first things it was probably about a year ago, we were in Indianapolis. We just did like a little weekend away and trying to like figure out what we wanted to do. And our first thing that we ever wrote inside the Intention Journal was wholesale one property, buy one rental. And that was, we want to do that in the next 90 days. And then we were going to go to Europe. Haven't gone to Europe, but we got a rental. Nice. We didn't wholesale a property in the 90 days, but we wholesaled a property. And so it's just cool to look back on stuff. So I think that's what my next plan is going to be. I want to document some more stuff.
That's awesome.
Awesome. This podcast has also been brought to you by this gnarly fly that was like flying around the entire time we were doing this podcast. I don't know where he's at now, but he was featured in this one. What do you have any final thoughts for our viewers?
I don't think so, other than just go for it, man. Like there's a quote that I shared today on Instagram is from the Rachel, I don't know what her last name is. She's Money Honey Rachel. She wrote a couple different books. It's more like women's money management, but she was on Bigger Pockets a couple different times. And it was basically saying like the risk of you investing, there is risk there, but the risk of you not investing is a guarantee that you're going to work your 9 to 5 till you're at least 65, if not probably 70 by the time we actually get there. And so which risk are you willing to take? I'd much rather take the risk of investing, buying things, maybe going bankrupt, maybe making a bad decision, maybe doing something stupid, but then hopefully we're being able to recover from it. I'm got the luxury of having a job that should hopefully always be there, like the need for it. But the alternative of me like being worried about the risk of all the other things is I'm just going to do it forever. And I don't want to do that. And so the risk certainly outweighs the reward. So just do it, get into it, get your hands dirty. You're going to screw stuff up. Like my first rental I bought, the college house, I called Bobby, like, I don't know how many times in that first week, basement flooded 2 times in that time. And he whenever he answered the phone, he said, I told him that it flooded. He busted up laughing. He said, welcome to being a landlord. So, but still, I look back on it and laugh now. It was worth it. It was terrible at the time. It seemed like this was a bad idea, but no, take the risk. Go for it.
You heard it, guys. David said, take the risk. Buy the $5,000 mastermind if you have to.
Absolutely.
Buy the course. Buy that mastermind.
Yep.
Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Cool. See you guys on the next one.